Hey guys, welcome to another SPL coverage video. Today we're going to be going over McMegan versus Bad Dummy. My name is Stories and I'm here with BKC.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Today, like I said, we have McMegan and Bad Dummy. McMegan doesn't really need much of an introduction. He's been playing SPL and ADV in general for a super long time. He's a 3-time ADV Cup winner and a Smogon Classic winner. And in terms of SPL, he has 106 wins and only 77 losses. Bad Dummy, he's more of a new player. He did win the most recent Kalas Invitational, which is arguably the most prestigious ADV tournament on the site. And he did play in SPL last year. He started out with a 1-5 record, but he locked in, brought it up to a 5-5 finish. Pretty good record.
I believe they played last year, and Bad Dummy, it's easier to call him Rick because his name used to be I'm Rick Astley, so let's just call him Rick. Rick, I believe, pulled off the upset last year against McMegan,
Okay.
and so I know McMegan was going to be pretty hungry for revenge. But even so, Rick is going to be the underdog. I mean, it's unusual for a player of such accomplishment to be ranked as low as 7th in the power rankings. Not that anyone should put too much stock in the power rankings, of course.
Right.
But McMegan is ranked 1st, and Bad Dummy is 7th. So, and I mean, most people aren't going to be favored against McMegan by the people at large. So, generally, what happens if there's a kind of mismatch to this degree? Even if that mismatch doesn't actually exist, all it takes is one player thinking there is, and then you can start seeing the unreliable team choices. If someone isn't confident and starts going, oh man, I gotta start busting out the cheese. I hope to catch this much better player than me off guard, otherwise I stand no chance. But Bad Dummy, to his credit, generally goes with very, very solid teams overall. And he's a very solid player as well. Obviously, you're generally going to need to be more than just solid to take on someone like McMegan. But McMegan, as incredible as he is, can only make one move on one turn like anybody else. So I think that's just about it. Bad Dummies, or Rick, is running the more solid variety of team, whereas McMegan generally oscillates between these, similarly solid teams. Sometimes he has this tendency to go very, very, very bulky, or he can get really, really creative. Sometimes even to his detriment. Has a habit of overdoing it. So it's really difficult to predict where exactly this game is going to go, just based on the teams, to say nothing of the million factors that cannot be predicted before the battle starts.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start the battle here. We're going to look at turn 1, see what the leads are. Tyranitar versus Cloyster.
T-Tar lead doesn't really say anything other than you're not facing one of those teams with Snorlax and Suicune that tries to play without sand that are in vogue in advance right now. And Cloyster in the lead slot tells you this is a Spikes offense team because Cloyster is not suited to stall. With how it gets worn down by sand and its ice typing drags it down as no longevity. So it's low HP, betraying its defense stat. So Cloyster is used on Spike's offense teams because it has a very nice explosion. It's not ruined by Magneton, and it has some good stabs it can throw out as well. It's got a pretty decent speed stat. Gets the jump on that mid-range offense that is characterized by things like T-Tar, Metagross, Swampert. And Cloyster gets the jump on them in the same speed tier that Breloom and Magneton make such good use of. So, with Cloyster against T-Tar, I don't think you can lead Cloyster if you're going to switch it out of the Tar on turn 1. So you're probably just going to go for a Spike and an Explosion. And if you are going to play that way with your Cloyster, sacrifice it for some spikes and some damage, then you're going to be running the kind of Spikes offense teams that has a Gengar, so you don't automatically, have lost your Cloyster for nothing once Claydol gets in, as it will, and clicks Rapid Spin. You don't necessarily have to sacrifice the Cloyster on the second turn, but if the T-Tar reveals Crunch, then it reveals Pursuit, and you don't want to get your Cloyster trapped for nothing but a layer of spikes, so you may as well just damage the T-Tar, especially because if the T-Tar is Crunch and it's Pursuit, then it's going to be relied on for Gengar that you have in the back. So if you can get a Spike up and dent the Tar heavily, for the benefit of your Gengar, you are in a very good position to start the game. If it's physical Tar, then you can probably consider switching out. I mean, look, you're not going to get a ton out of a damaged Cloyster once you've eaten that Rock Slide or, Forbid Focus Punch. But you can preserve it for fodder later on, especially if you have a good switch to a physical T-Tar, like an offensive Swampert. You get that thing in with with Sand and Spikes, and you're in the driver's seat already. So a lot of it is team dependent, but I would say it's very likely, because I've seen this game once, but I don't remember the details. But I would be very surprised if Cloyster didn't spike in the first turn. And as for T-Tar, whatever set it is, whether it's special, mixed, or offensive, T-Tar doesn't like taking Stab Surf, but Cloyster isn't here to click Stab Surf. Not immediately anyway, it's here to get the spikes. So you don't want to give the Cloyster, spikes for no damage at all when you are in such a good position to threaten it. Therefore, I think we'll see T-Tar attack, and then we will go from there.
Okay. And do you think this is a favorable lead for the Cloyster because it gets that spike and threaten Stab Surf?
And definitely Surf, or you might even want to Explode, honestly, just so in case you think like a Zapdos or something is going to come in. Obviously, you have to think twice before you do that, just so you don't bomb into a Gengar.
Right.
But I think it can be to your advantage depending on the T-Tar set. But I mean,
T-Tar's
you
so
generally
versatile.
don't lead something like Cloyster thinking, oh, well, I'm going to have to, switch out a T-Tar. Part of the appeal of Cloyster is that you are going to spike and do some damage to T-Tar more reliably than something like Smeargle would, because Smeargle has to watch out for things like Lumberry. So, I think it can be advantageous for sure. There's also a possibility that it spikes and just gets O-code by a Choice Band Rock Slide, but CB Tar is somehow always underrated. So I think it's for McMegan. He thinks it's going to be worth taking the gamble of hope I don't get CB Rock Slid on the first turn, and yeah.
I'd be shocked at that O-code. Cloyster's really bulky. Yeah, let's
It's
get
not
into
that bulky though. It's because these Cloysters, they run max HP, but they also run a ton of speed. So, and T-Tar is really strong. If it was like a physically bulky Cloyster, sure, but we don't really see those. Oh, it just goes right for the Surf. Okay. You can ignore everything I just... Okay, no, that's not
that
true.
crunch does a ton, too.
Yeah, I mean, Cloyster's frail. If it's not max HP, it's probably something like max speed. But, okay, I think the logic still applies. Like, Surf...
You get your spike up.
Focus punching. Yeah, because...
Yeah,
still
so
going
Surf
to
turn
either-
one.
So basically the order was just reversed. Technically, if you spike and then Surf, then you give T-Tar one less turn of leftovers. The basic idea is the same. He just went for the Surf first because I think he wanted to see if he could chase the T-Tar out and then spike. But
Okay.
take what I said with a grain of salt.
And like you said, it also disrupts the focus punch. Cloyster goes down here. And Dugtrio comes in.
Oh. Yeah, you generally don't see Doug on these offenses that are extremely fast-paced because of the free turns it gives to things you don't want to be giving free turns to, Zapdos, Skarmory, Gengar. So generally these kinds of spikes, fast spiking offense teams are going to be more fluid in their game plan, not really a lot of choice band going around. But obviously what Doug does is irreplaceable, so getting rid of the T-Tar and helping get rid of Blissey is enormous. Celebi as well, Jirachi. So these are big targets for Spike's offense that are generally obnoxious to take down, so I can see it. Of course, the flip side is now that Bad Dummy is going to have the momentum. Okay, Celebi is going to throw out a Leech Seed, I'm sure. We can see where this is going to go.
Okay.
The Celebi obviously has the problem where it has to constantly be wary of the Dugtrio, but on the other hand, we also know that Dugtrio does not like switching into Celebi. And with Regice coming in, like, Regice does threaten Celebi quite decently, but, even as strong as an invested stab Ice Beam is against Celebi, it does have the infuriating habit of getting Recover stalled with Leech Seed. Kind of a... Regice has its upsides, but the plus side is that Regice is very good with spikes because none of its switch-ins are spike immune. And Regice is very good with Dugtrio for the same reason. All of its answers are grounded. So with Spikes and Dugtrio, Regice is very well supported, and it's going to be a major pain for a lot of defensive teams. So I really like the synergy McMegan has there. He is going to have a bit of an awkward time around the Celebi, though. Celebi is awkward and irritating for offense to deal with in general, and you don't get that much better than Regice, but you do have to be careful. His plan is not going to be throw Regice into it over and over so much as get Dugtrio in as soon as possible. But here, I don't see the move being... Well, I think Rick is going to want to protect the Celebi. I could see him like staying in and going for a Psychic and then recover spamming if his goal is to just win this one-on-one. But the question is it worth winning this one-on-one and basically sacrificing your Celebi, which will get followed up, which will get taken out by Dugtrio in the follow-up against the Regice almost surely, in order to take out the Regice, or
also
do
risk
you go to
crit.
something else? Yeah, it's generally this early, especially with Regice as healthy as it is, I don't know that you really want to force the issue yet, especially because Regice is generally not the thing that you will want to sacrifice something to take out if you can help it. Sacrificing something to take out like a T-Tar, that's a big deal. Regice not nearly so threatening. So yeah, I think Celebi's probably switching out here. And it remains to be seen whether McMegan's going to just Ice Beam or he's going to switch around. He has that freedom. And there's a BP, which scouts the switch beautifully and brings in Flygon. So that almost certainly tells you there's going to be a Skarmory or a Magneton. It's said that Flygon requires one of the two, if not both. It is very good on Skarm Mag structures. But I mean, that's where the Pursuit Tar comes in to take advantage of its enemy Gengar, which I'm still fairly confident we're going to be seeing. And Flygon with Magneton support also enjoys running Choice Band, and that is a pretty wicked Earthquake it wields in that situation, and it will drop a Metagross at full health, which otherwise survives pretty much every Earthquake in the tier, even Banded. So... McMegan has not revealed any flyers yet, so I'm pretty sure one is going to come in right now. You don't want to risk Metagross's health because you won't even be taking it out in return if you stand in mesh. And Rick goes right for the EQ. That reveals nothing other than McMegan does indeed have the Gengar. He's got some good synergy. He's got 3 Exploders in Regice, Metagross, and Gengar. Lots of special pressure. He's got the extra physical pressure in Metagross to... help out Dugtrio against things like Blissey and T-Tar, and of course provide the requisite rock resist for things like Aerodactyl. And Flygon has just given a Gengar a free switch with a Pursuit Tar that's at half health and a Spike down, so nothing is going to enjoy coming into this. So McMegan is looking in the driver's seat, whether he wants to Wisp, whether he wants to Ice Punch. What am I talking about? The T-Tar's at half health. I saw turn 2 or turn 1 on my mind. It's been taken out.
Yeah, even better.
This is a very, very free Gengar. I think a Will-O-Wisp is very, very safe here, especially because Celebi can switch in, but it's still not switching in comfortably. And there's very low risk to the whole affair.
Okay, so let's see what happens here. We're expecting a Will-O-Wisp or Ice Punch, presumably, right?
Yeah. There's almost no downside to it.
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so Rain Dance is not something you see on Gengar ever. Weather Clearing is, of course, I mean, as mentioned earlier, things like Suicune. So we could expect a Suicune in the back, which Suicune has great synergy with Explosion because none of Suicune's answers are normal resistant. So if you get a Boom Off on something like a Zapdos or a Blissey or Celebi, then you're probably taking it out, especially with Spikes and Dugtrio helping you out. And then once all that are left are normal resist, things like T-Tar, well, not T-Tar in this case, but things like Metagross or Jirachi or Aerodactyl, then Suicune is going to beat them because a Calm Mind Roar Suicune dominates Calm Mind Jirachi and beats other variants as well. So the problem is with this Weather Clear is that while it opens up Suicune and helps out Regice, the problem is that it makes my Lodic, of all things, a lot tougher to take down. Of course, the flip side is that in sand, Regice would also be worn down more quickly. But yeah, now we've got a situation where Gengar's explosion bounces off. Thunderbolt isn't doing a lot, especially without the help of sand. And Milotic Surf even gets boosted, so Gengar's definitely getting 2 KO'd. So you want to retreat to Regice, but you have the issue where even though Regice has Thunderbolt, hey, maybe even Thunder, Milotic is still really specially bulky and has a lot of recover, so you're not breaking through it. You're just going to get Toxic stalled out. So you have this awkward position where the only way you're really threatening Milotic immediately is through Metagross Boom, and that's a very risky proposition, considering, again, Bad Dummy almost certainly has a Skarmory or a Magneton to be switched in. So, yeah, I think you gotta get out of there with Gengar, though. I mean, you can T-Bolt, and maybe even has Thunder. If it has Thunder, that'll 2 KO, probably, if it's max special attack, but... yeah, Regice is the safe option, though. Just see what's going on. Pivot into Metagross on the Toxic, maybe. But it's not a good option to have.
Yeah, this Milotic seems great here, especially after Rain Dance goes up, boosting it. We were expecting Will-O-Wisp or maybe Ice Punch, and I can't imagine a better switch into both of those moves than a Marble Scale Milotic. So I guess we're going to see what McMegan does in response to
Milotic
this.
gets burned, then... yeah, Milotic getting burned is actually really good for McMegan, because then it can't stand up to... Gengar Thunderbolts. The Marble Scale is probably not going to come in to play as much. That's an ugly crit, though, with the crit in the rain, too. That's a very limited turn crit. But at the same time, I don't know that it fundamentally changes the dynamic between them, other than Regice is under a lot of pressure now. Is it going to boom right away? I think it almost has to. Maybe it'll T-Wave or something. Nope, just Thunderbolts and doesn't even do half. Yeah. And, well, there's no sense in not just surfing again. Oh, okay, so here comes Kingdra and not Suicune. I was gonna say, if you have a Suicune in this situation, if you get it in, it's like a sub-Calm Mind Suicune, and the Celebi doesn't have HP Grass, things can get out of hand. And teams with Milotic definitely need a plan for like sub-Suicunes that otherwise will just run them over, which usually involves a fast HP Grass Celebi on structures like this. But Kingdra makes it interesting because while Kingdra is excelling at ripping through offense, it's not doing so much against Milotic. In fact, Milotic, along with things like other bulky Suicune or like, the rare Vaporeon, are pretty much like the worst things it could face. Blissey, at least you can manage with like Metagross and Dugtrio, of course, but the Waters both stand up to Metagross and aren't afraid of Dougie. So they just kind of take on the whole squad, and yeah, it could very well. I mean, after the bad start, the Milotic is like single-handedly carrying this one. It's a shame because I really, really like McMegan's team. The synergy is just outstanding on all corners. The spikes, the Doug, the offensive, defensive core, it's incredible. But Milotic is like. Milotic and like a Calm Mind Rest Suicune are easily its weak points, but even Suicune you can overwhelm more easily with Gengar. It's really the huge natural special defense and recover of Milotic that are making it as difficult to handle as it is.
Yeah, Milotic seems poised to 1v5 the rest of McMegan's team here. So let's see what McMegan has in response for this. Maybe Toxic on Kingdra? I know they run that sometimes.
They do, but Milotic also runs Refresh, so it's not going to do anything.
Oh, you're right. We see Substitute, though.
So, Substitute, along with Lefties on Kingdra, is cool, because Sub-Kingdra is great in general. Like, if you try to sacrifice something slower to Kingdra, like you sacrifice a low HP Metagross or something, and the Kingdra subs, you are so gone. But, and it's also cool for situations like this, where you can hide behind a sub and not be afraid of Toxic, especially because it takes like a million serves to break the sub. And you can go for Ice Beam freezes. Of course, you only have 16 Ice Beams, and not only do you need the freeze, you also need Milotic to not thaw out. And Milotic, it has a lot of PP on its moves, and so you are not really favored in this situation. So, yeah, I think we can even speed this part up, because this is just a lot of waiting.
Okay, so they eventually do get the freeze, but it instantly thaws out.
See, there's also the Thaw is not a high percentage move, but as you see there, even Surf, like it's like a 5-hit KO, maybe, in Rain. So you would have to get the freeze and then wait a really long time for it to not get that Thaw.
So
I
something
mean,
I
you do have a lot
noticed.
of opportunities to get the freeze, but it's. Yeah, I almost wonder if you wouldn't be better off just switching out and going to, Regice or Gengar to start spamming the electric moves. But either way, you have to get incredibly lucky. So yeah, I think we
Something I
just
noticed
keep going
is
here.
the kind of synergy with Regice and the other special attackers, as Regice can explode on stuff like Blissey and other special walls. Do you think that Regice should have exploded versus the Milotic to remove it to allow Kingdra to win?
No, it does it does absolutely nothing.
Really?
Milotic has good defense, especially because it's maxed out there. And Regice's attack is terrible. Like, Regice's explosion gets the job done against Blissey and Snorlax and other Regice because they have comparatively low defense, especially Lax and Blissey. And Dugtrio follows them up. So like, if it's just Regice exploding, it's pretty weak generally. It's Regice exploding against damaged Pokemon plus Doug that gets the job done. And that's why, the waters are so threatening, because you can explode on the Milotic and follow it up with Doug, and it'll just recover it off. So no, I don't think it would have done enough at all. Like, maybe if the Regice had something weird, like a lot of attack investment, but the whole point of Spikes and Dugtrio is that you don't need attack investment at all. Because you already want to have max special attack, you want max HP, you want some physical bulk, honestly. But even just max HP and max special attack is all you really want and need. You're never really going to explode on the waters with the goal of, taking them out. Because even with investment, you need way too much investment for that to actually work. So, yeah, I don't think that would have worked out.
Okay. So we see Celebi come in after Milotic sits in front of Kingdra for a couple turns. I'm guessing they just want to preserve PP on Milotic?
I mean, I guess, but, Recover has 32 PP in advance. So, I don't know. I mean, I didn't run the math, so I'm sure Rick thought this through. But, how many Ice Beams is that? Okay, it only has 7 Ice Beams.
There's 7 left and 20
Surge. Celebi to run out of. Yeah, I guess he's kind of recognizing that, look, if I preserve the Milotic, I'm probably going to do okay. But at the same time, like, you don't want to just haphazardly throw away Pokemon. Because, like, let's say the Celebi goes down to, like, a Dugtrio, and then, the floodgates are starting to open up, and McMegan will be able to target the Milotic more precisely with a boom. And that's when it's going to start to get tough. It's especially difficult to deal with Milotic if it was when it has so many teammates it can bounce back on. But if you start giving away those teammates, then a player of McMegan's caliber can definitely find a way back, find the edge.
Okay, well, I'm sure Bad Dummy had his reason to preserve Milotic. He probably thought it had such a good matchup versus the rest of the team. He didn't want to risk another freeze, maybe? That's my only guess.
Yeah. So it is a fast HP Grass Celebi, so it's good to see that. And the Ice Beam, again, just bouncing off, doing less than half. So, yeah, now even if he gets crit, he can recover it off. I mean, he would need like 2 crits in, a very small number of turns. So, I mean, I guess he could theoretically just go to Dugtrio on the second crit. Nice Leech Seed there. That was really, really proactive by Bad Dummy, knowing that he's going to... or that he doesn't want to give up the momentum. The Magneton pivot there is perfect, because Magneton is worthless here. Magneton's biggest use here is catching explosions from Regice and Gengar that otherwise aren't going to be used. But McMegan makes a very heads-up play there and goes to... Oh, so... Okay.
No Earthquake, no HP Fire. That was really interesting. Let me go back so we can view the turn in full here. So it looks like they both switch on the same turn.
Is nice. Yeah. So the Leech Seed is nice because he doesn't want to just passively recover non-stop. I guess he risked getting crit KO'd there, but I think it's also likely that he recognized McMegan's not just going to spam all his remaining Ice Beams and then wait until he hits 0 and go, oh well, I guess I got to find a different route now. He's going to try and get those extra lefties on Regice, because if he can Ice Beam the Celebi on the Leech Seed, then that's much different from the previous situation, where the Regice switched into the Leech Seed, and then Celebi had the momentum and could switch out and could, wear it down more by tapping it with like a Psychic, or an HP Grass in this case that we now know it has, because Gengar is getting pursued by T-Tar, so that minimizes the need for Psychic. Although it still would be appreciated against fighting types, especially Heracross, which this team so far is very afraid of, especially if the last is something like Snorlax, as I believe the M-Dragon team that it bears similarity to. Anyway, yeah, then with the Leech Seed going off, then he goes to Magneton to basically try and throw it away into the Regice. And I don't mean throw it away by letting Regice take it out, because that's obviously not what's going on, but more in the sense that this eats up Ice Beams, this eats up Explosions, and if Dugtrio comes in and Revenge kills it, then Celebi gets another Leech Seed off, and we see that McMegan can't really switch into it at all. So, I think what was going on there was that McMegan went to Metagross to try and catch a Milotic switch. And this is kind of what I mean by Milotic being difficult to handle when it's got so many teammates. You know, if this Magneton went down earlier for whatever reason, then Rick would be forced into that Milo. Maybe I guess Snorlax could come in there. Maybe he was expecting the Snorlax to switch in there, honestly. If he recognized the team, because Metagross obviously matches up well one-on-one against Lex. But yeah, Bad Dummy just playing it extremely safe, recognizing that Magneton is, you know, pretty much worthless, and it got some value here, you know, and it checks the low health Regice, which is good, but it's not something you expect to handle the Metagross, because you expect most Metagross to have Earthquake, and I mean, HP Fire wouldn't have KO'd, so as soon as it's not an EQ Metagross, as soon as it's, you know, slower and special attacking, the Magneton's going to win that one-on-one anyway. With a very hard-hitting T-Bolt, might have been Magnet. I think the reason it doesn't have HP Fire is, I don't know, I think it might be a Pursuit Metagross, honestly. Psychic, Mash, Pursuit, Boom. So, you could Boom, you don't want to Boom on like a Protect or a Sub, but either way, it's just a bad situation to be in. I guess you could Boom and then you're going to finish it off with Dugtrio anyway. Maybe he was hoping that, no, Psychic wouldn't have even KO with the crit. So, I don't know, I think maybe Boom was an option there. Because if Magneton protects or subs, then you're losing to the Magneton anyway, and you don't. And worst case, you're still gonna Revenge Kill with Dugtrio just like you are here. I don't know. Maybe he thought that Flygon was gonna come in on EQ or something, and he wanted to. But I think blowing up anything at this point is good. Yeah, I think he thought the Magneton would probably be switched out to be preserved into the Regice. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything but stay in because Magnet Pull. So I think he just Psychic or Psychic. Or, I think blowing up was the better option. But it's not like he really had good options in general. It was just, you know, bad or worse.
Yeah, I think no matter what, you end up losing him on. But at least with Explosion, you would have taken something out along with you, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a moot point because, like, yeah, you Revenge Kill with Dugtrio now when you give a free turn. But, like, even if you weren't forced into Revenge Killing with Dugtrio, you know, is this free turn that you would have avoided going to make that much of a difference? You know, the core dynamic of struggling into Milotic and Celebi is still going to be there. Or, honestly, just Milotic. So, in comes Celebi again. More Leech Seed, very, very free. Nothing's coming into it nicely. I mean, Regice kind of does, but, yeah, Gengar switching into Celebi is... Yeah, it's not going to get Psychicked, but it's still going to lose one-on-one, you know, especially while leeched. So trying to pivot Regice in, nicely done there, knowing another Leech is probably not coming. Milotic comes in to try and absorb like a nice punch or a weak Boom. But again, it's just kind of, you have to hope you get lucky. You have to hope you crit or para this T-Bolt. And if you don't get it, then you're out of luck, almost entirely. Yeah, Rick has no reason to not just surf again.
Does Explosion really not do more than Thunderbolt here?
No, it's so weak.
Really? I've never seen an ADV Boom do less than half to anything. From anything. Just because it's so strong.
Yeah, but Regice has a really, really weak attack stat.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I mean, Explosion from 104 attack Regice, which, by the way, I can't really see anyone running because you don't want to dip into your special attack. Seeing as... Yeah, this is a max special attack Regice, judging from how much the Thunderbolt's doing. The set on the calc with 152 special attack, that's topping out at 43 with T-Bolt. Yeah, the Explosion is realistically going to do, with little attack investment, it's going to do like, you know, 52-ish max.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I guess if you're going by the rationale that you have one turn to do something and you need a crit anyway, then you may as well go for the explosion because that actually does more damage. But it's kind of a same difference thing because T-Bolt also has the opportunity to para. And I get that, you can that Milotic can refresh it off on the next turn and then still be fine, but it's varying shades of desperation where you are really just trying to min-max the small odds you already have. But even if, one piece... I mean, it's always good to go for the better odds, whatever they are in this case, without really crunching the numbers. But, the odds are so minuscule either way that it's really mostly splitting hairs. And if you get lucky with a crit para against this Milotic, then you get to keep your Regice, so that's cool. Whereas with Explosion, then you lose the Regice, and then you have to somehow do it with Doug, Gar, and Kingdra. So I guess if you're this far behind, then you have to just kind of hope that the best case scenario will pop up, and then you can work from there, because if it's anything less, then you're toast anyway. So I can see it.
Okay. So then we see Dugtrio come in. It's not going to be able to take out the Milotic. So we see a recovery here. And do you think Milotic will just recover until Dugtrio runs out of Earthquake PP, or is it better to just take it out as soon as you can?
I would say that it's very tempting to take it out immediately with Surf, but seeing as the way that Rick is playing suggests that the last is really scared of Kingdra, and I guess he's just trying to play extremely safe. I guess with the rationale that if you do get crit by the Doug, then you go to Celebi, and then you Leech Seed, and then you have the whole Gengar coming into Celebi thing. And Gengar's not taking Celebi out at all on its own. The best it's going to do, especially when Leech, the best it's going to do is explode into Dugtrio. But then the Dugtrio is given Flygon a safe switch, and Flygon's going to win the game against Dugtrio. So you really can't go wrong at this point because he's so far ahead. So yeah, in short, Gengar or Dugtrio crits Milo, Celebi comes in, and you pretty much lose to the Celebi. You can't get a KO on Celebi without sacrificing something, whether that's Kingdra or Gengar. I guess theoretically, if you want to try to win with Kingdra, then you would win with Gengar, then you would sack Kingdra and then try to Dugtrio it, and then try to just go hero mode with Gengar, but it's not that likely that the last... Maybe the last is Salamence or something, or Heracross is feasible, but basically Celebi puts so much pressure. Yeah, actually, even if you go to Kingdra and Leech Seed, then you don't even lose health on Celebi, therefore Dugtrio doesn't even KO it. Yeah, I mean, it might live the follow-up, the HP Grass in return, maybe not, depending, but I would say probably not, given that this team is fast, so you need, as much speed and attack on Dugtrio as possible, and not the, bulk. But yeah, you're not switching around the Leech Seed HP Grass combination without losing something, and as soon as you lose something, you just make it even easier for Bad Dummy to clean up. So, theoretically, losing Milotic and Celebi could lead to Gengar taking out the last, and obviously beating Flygon. But it's still a very unlucky proposition. So, yeah, I can see being ultra safe. Although, with that rationale, I kind of do see, just go for the Surf. If Celebi is doing so well that you're going to win anyway, then you may as well just take out the Dugtrio, and then you have Celebi into Gengar and Kingdra. So actually, no, I take it back. Surf is better, because if you take out the Dugtrio, then you win by having Celebi against Gengar and Kingdra. You'd have to be extremely unlucky to lose that. And this whole... I mean, look, we also don't know the last, because it could be a number of things. It could be Metagross, Snorlax, Heracross, Salamence or something. Even Arrow. But, so that's obviously coloring how he's going to play it. But I think with how strong Celebi is, you can't really go wrong with just surfing it.
Okay, so McMegan does end up switching Dugtrio out anyway into Gengar. Takes the Surf pretty comfortably.
McMegan doesn't give up on it and just goes for Gengar instead, yeah.
And so what you're suggesting that Bad Dummy has in the back is not a Spike Setter, which is pretty rare in ADV from what I've seen, right? Spikes are pretty valuable in this?
Yeah, it's not an automatic addition, but yeah, I don't think he has. I think Scarm would have come in by now. Yeah, so there's Wisp and Boom, and yeah, so now you pretty much you pray that you win with Kingdra because if this recover spams, then you can crit it. But even then, it can just recover repeatedly, and no, I think well, you don't want the Kingdra to get at the sub, but it's still very unlikely.
Yeah, sub Kingdra on Milo seems pretty threatening now that it's burned. Like, taking that extra chip damage, you're gonna run out of recovers eventually, but I'm not sure if that's even before Kingdra runs out of moves.
You just refresh as soon as the Kingdra comes in and you're fine.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting about refresh.
Yeah.
And the Marvel scale is actually kind of helpful versus this Dugtrio now.
Yeah, but if it doesn't have Marvel scale activated, you just take a Surf, or you just take an EQ and you KO it, so it's kind of a same difference sort of deal. I get that you can like stall this out with Toxic now, but like if Celebi was comfortable recovering in Kingdra's face earlier, I think you were still comfortable enough with it. But also, Rick is so far ahead that we are really just kind of looking for ways that that he might potentially open up an avenue for Luck to, rear its ugly head and do something untoward. But it's pretty tough at this point.
Yeah, McMegan would have to crit the Milotic and the Celebi on the right turns to win with Kingdra at this point.
Yeah, he needs to get very lucky here.
There's one of them.
So see, like there's a crit, and then it's not gonna do anything.
Yeah,
so
it's completely offset already.
So this is kind of, I don't even know if he has enough PP to both like luck his way through the Kingdra and the Celebi, and to say nothing of whatever the last is. Ultimately, this was a combination of, I don't know if luck really played a factor. The luck was really more in the matchup. I mean, to be clear, like yes, matchup luck is definitely a thing, but Bad Dummy also brought a very solid team, and McMegan brought something, I don't want to call it riskier, because again, I want to stress that this is a very, very well built team, but it does have the downside of struggling into a select few Pokemon, which you happen to run into. So, I mean, in a matchup like this, you really have to rely on the momentum just being kind of nonstop. And honestly, the Baton Pass Celebi is underrated in really maintaining the ability to get back on the front foot against a team style that relies on always having the opponent be on the back foot. So yeah, it's starting to run out of Ice Beams. How many Ice Beams does it have? It's gotta have like 2 at this point, right?
Yep, 2 left.
Yeah, 2. So yeah, I guess he subs hoping to catch a Leech Seed or a Choke or something, but yeah, it's just not gonna be enough, and that's the ball game.
All right. So, in terms of numbers, pretty unexpected result, but if you really look into it a little deeper, we saw Bad Dummy beat McMegan in their last encounter. So, maybe the PRs don't spell the whole picture.
They never do. The PRs are a fun preseason thing, but nobody should put too much stock into them. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're hilariously wrong, but they're ultimately a reflection of people's perception of players, and people's perception of players can be, and often is, incredibly flawed for a number of reasons. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think Bad Dummy's last mon was? You said it was maybe Heracross or Snorlax, right?
So many Pokemon that it could have been. I like that kind of team with Metagross there. Heracross is known to pop up in that last slot. M-Dragon originally built that team with a Snorlax in the last slot, I believe. And you can run your own Skarmory. There's a lot of stuff you can do, basically. You could run Arrow, theoretically. I know not a lot of people like Arrow without spikes, but I do. With Sand and Mag, I think it's just fine. You could run Salamence. You could run... I think it should probably be something that doesn't completely fold to Dugtrio. Can punish it in some way, so you don't have 4 Pokemon that are taken out by Doug and T-Tar, Mag, Celebi, and whatever the last is. But Metagross and Heracross, for instance, like yes, they are potentially Mag vulnerable, well, Metagross too potentially, but they're potentially Doug vulnerable. but they're also potentially great abusers of Doug. You know, Doug doesn't have an easy time taking Metagross out. You know, Heracross takes advantage of an Earthquake block, things like that. Metagross can agility in the late game, so you have a physical core of Flygon and Metagross clearing things out. So yeah, and I think more physical help is definitely appreciated on this kind of team. So
Yeah, just the Milotic and Celebi seem to carry in this battle. Like, just their sheer bulk.
A lot of teams really. I mean, they struggle with things like Calm Minders, which is another reason why you really like that physical presence of not just Flygon, but whatever the last is. But against like mixed attacking, like a lot of what we saw here, they're just lights out, or you know, non-boosting attacking.
Yeah, they just didn't have the muscle to get through that. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll have more SPL coverage coming out later, so make sure you subscribe to check those out. And with that, I think we're going to end the video, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for watching.
Alright, bye-bye.